Hi everyone, thank you for coming. We're gonna give it a couple more minutes so people can trickle in. Please drop where you're tuning in from in the chat if you haven't already. Everyone, welcome. I think we're gonna get started now. Welcome. Before we begin, we'd like to set some, guidelines, and that camera's on if you want. If you don't want to, that's totally fine. Please stay muted until the demonstration and feel free to make copious use of reactions in chat. And now we'd like to introduce ourselves.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. It's great to have everybody here. My name is Gina Mobile, and I'm a JROTC cadet at Granger High School. And today I will be explaining the historical portion of nuclear warfare.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I am from Northbrook, Illinois, and I am an IHL youth advocate, and I will be talking about the applications of IHL and nuclear weapons today.
Hi everyone, my name is Ginger. I'm an IHL advocate from Portland, Oregon and Cascades region, and I'll be talking about Sadako Sasaki and the legend of the 1,000 paper cranes.
Hello everybody, I'm Rayleigh. I'm also a JRTC cadet from Granger High School, and I will be doing the demonstration today.
All right, so before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of background about the IHL and the Youth Action Campaign. The IHL Youth Action Campaign is sponsored by the Red Cross, and it is an advocacy program to help educate youth ages like 13 to 17 and all sorts of ages from all over America about the principles of international humanitarian law. And those are the laws that govern conflict, that restrict uses on unnecessary military action, and to make sure that like human dignity is maintained even in like areas of militant conflict. We work in our local communities to engage in discussions around IHL, like on the interpersonal level, but we also come together on the national level, like we are here today, to discuss issues like nuclear weapons and paper cranes.
So to sort of start out with the whole history part of it, let's talk about nuclear weapon testing. The world's first nuclear explosion occurred on July 16, 1945, on the plains of the Alamogordo bombing range. The code name for this test was called Trinity, releasing 18.6 kilotons of power, instantly vaporizing the tower and turning the surrounding asphalt and sand into green glass called trinitite. Seconds after the explosion, an enormous blast sent searing heat across the desert, knocking observers to the ground. Reports from witnesses came from as far as 200 miles away. From that day forward, over 2,000 nuclear tests had been carried out all over the world, until 1996, when the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty was signed. Now, after saying that, let's talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were the only times that nuclear weapons were used in combat. On August 6 of 1945, a B-29 bomber plane known as the Enola Gay had released Little Boy over the city of Hiroshima. Little Boy was a 9,700-pound uranium gun-type bomb. Aerial surveys released at least 60% of the city's built-up areas were destroyed, leading to the conclusion that perhaps as many as 200,000 of Hiroshima's 340,000 residents perished or were injured. Just 3 days later, on August 9th of 1945, Boxcar, another B-29 bomber plane, had released an atomic bomb called Fat Man over the city of Nagasaki. It is estimated that 40,000 people died initially, with 60,000 more injured. Both bombings had a huge impact on history and the lives of many people. Now I'd like to pass the presentation back to Katie.
Okay, so after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the nuclear powers came together in 1968 to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Proliferation is defined as the rapid increase in quantity, and in this case, it is defined as like the increase in quality and quantity of nuclear weapons. And so nuclear powers such as the United Kingdom, France, China, the United States, and Russia all came together to sign an agreement that they would stop rapidly increasing the amount of nuclear weapons they had in their arsenal, that they would stop like innovating their nuclear weapons technology, and to maintain a lower level of nuclear weapons to ensure more safety for humanity. And more recently, in 2017, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was signed. Now, this has around 90 signatories, and it basically is trying to spread awareness against nuclear weapons use. So even if a state like such as the US hasn't signed on to it, that they're not banning their nuclear weapons, it still increases the taboo the international community wants to rally around the use of nuclear weapons, and it abides by the principles of IHL. So even if a state doesn't use or doesn't sign on to the treaty and they still have nuclear weapons in their possession, they still have to follow the rules of conflict, such as the principle of distinction or the principle of military necessity when deploying nuclear weapons. And so that means like differentiating between civilians and military personnel, and also making sure that nuclear bombs are used strategically and not to just act on political whims to make sure to minimize human suffering.
Some of you may have heard of Sadako Sasaki, who is one of the best-known hibakusha, which is a Japanese term that means bomb-affected person. Sadako was born on January 7th, 1943 in Yamaguchi Prefecture, Japan. She was only 2 when the US dropped an atomic bomb, Little Boy, onto her town of Hiroshima, and she was a mile away from ground zero. From the blast, she was blown out of her house through a window, and her mother ran outside thinking that Sadako might be dead. But Sadako was just on the ground, seemingly unscathed. While they were fleeing the area, Sadako and her mother were caught in black rain, which is rain contaminated with radioactive fallout, which severely irradiated them. Although Sadako had a relatively normal childhood, she was healthy and athletically gifted growing up as one of the best runners on her school relay team. About 10 years later, she started developing swellings behind her ears and also on her neck, and eventually was diagnosed with leukemia and was hospitalized shortly after. While hospitalized, Sadako was introduced to the legend of the 1,000 paper cranes, which essentially was if someone folded 1,000 paper cranes, they would be granted a wish, and Sadako wished for recovery. And Sadako had a lot of time at the hospital, so she could fold a lot of cranes, but she often lacked paper. So she continued to scrounge for medicine wrappings and also asked for other patients at the hospital to give her the papers from their gifts. In the end, Sadako folded approximately 1,300 cranes, but unfortunately her wish was not granted, and then she died shortly after in October 1955. Sadako's persistence and legacy is honored through memorials like the Hiroshima Children's Peace Monument, where Sadako is depicted at the top of the pedestal holding a crane. A thousand cranes. Orizuru is the Japanese word for origami crane. It's a combination of ori, meaning fold, and tsuru, the Japanese word for crane. It's considered to be one of the most iconic origami models, and many Japanese children learn to fold it at a young age. Senbazuru, meaning 1,000 cranes, is a combination of sen, meaning 1,000, and orizuru. And Japanese tradition holds that if someone folds 1,000 orizuru, they are granted one wish. In Sadako's case, this was for recovery. And over time, senbazuru and the effort to fold them have come to be recognized as symbols of peace and recovery due to the legacy of people like Sadako. We've challenged ourselves as advocates and cadets to make as many orizuru as possible, in addition to raising awareness about this important issue of nuclear weapons and armed conflict and how it relates to international humanitarian law. We'd like to challenge you all to do the same. And for those of you who are advocates or cadets and participating in the campaign this year, please keep this in mind as a possible campaign activity. Now I'd like to pass it off to Rayleigh to teach you all how to make your own orizuru.
Alrighty, it's time to make your own orizuru. While I'm demonstrating, we will make sure that everyone is keeping up. If you have a question or are struggling, do ask. We want everyone to have a beautiful paper crane by the end of the demonstration. We also ask that you have your cameras on because we want to learn together. And your paper does need to be square. I have a demonstration on the slides on how to do that, and I will also show you down here. Okay. When you fold your paper, you can cut this bottom part off or tear it. Either one is fine, and you should have a square. So
You're doing it? It seems that way. Malaya Weber, ROTC cadet.
can we have the next slide? All right. So now if you have your square, the first step is to fold the top of the square onto the bottom. And then we unfold. And then we will take the right side and fold it onto the left. And then we will unfold. So we should have a crease going downwards and a crease going side to side. After that, we flip over the paper and we'll take the bottom right corner and fold it onto the top left corner. and then unfold. And then we'll take the bottom left corner and take it to the top right corner. And then we'll unfold it again. And flip it over. So we should have one going down, across, and then two going diagonally. From here, we're going to turn it on its. And you'll see these little triangles. And you're going to take triangle 1 and fold it onto triangle 2, like so. And then triangle 3 onto triangle 4. I'm writing the numbers on my paper so that you can see it better. Just like that. And then we push down. If you need me to slow down or repeat anything, please ask. So make sure on this next step that you have the open side pointing downwards. You're going to take one of the flaps and put it on the crease in the middle. And you only need it to go to where the bottom is pointed, so the top will be flat. And it'll make a smaller triangle. And then we'll repeat this step on this side. And then we can flip it over and repeat. And then from here, we will unfold these folds on the back and front. And from the bottom, you'll open it up and fold it upwards. And from here, we'll take this triangle 5, and fold it onto triangle 6. And then we'll triangle 7. And then we'll repeat that on the other. We'll take the flaps and open them up. That's what it looks like on both sides. Take the flap and open it. So now you should have this kind of shape. From here, we're going to do a lot like we did on step F, where we take the edge of the flap and fold it inwards to make a point on the bottom. And we'll repeat that for both sides of the paper. We're not going to unfold these ones though. They'll stay folded. Just like that. Flip it over, do it on the other side. Just like that. And then from here, you're going to take the right side and fold it onto the left. So you'll fold those two folds you just did onto each other, flip over, and then fold the right onto the left again. And then we'll take the bottom and fold it upwards so that it lines up with these points up here. And we'll repeat that for the other side as well. And then from here, we'll fold the right side onto the left again, flip it over, fold the right side onto the left again. So just and then after that, we'll take the points that we have in the middle here and here and pull them out slightly. Like so. On this step, we're going to make the head of the crane. You don't need to worry about which point you choose, but you'll choose one of these points and then fold it downwards at the tip. And it should make the head. And then after that, we'll fold the flap down on both sides. And you should have a paper crane. A little bonus you can do to make it stand easier is you can push down on the feet of the crane right here and right here.
Okay, if anyone has any questions or needs this step repeated, please do speak up now. You can do it in the chat, or I guess you could raise your hand. Okay, we'll move on then. If everyone could turn on their cameras, this would be great. And we're going to be taking a picture, so if everyone could turn on their cameras and then hold up their crane, that would be amazing. If you can't, that's totally okay as well. Okay, thank you all for coming. We really hope you enjoyed this. We do have some upcoming events. We have a career panel about IHL related careers on July 26th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. We have our national symposium on July 27th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And then we have a pop culture event on July 28th from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. And I believe they'll be covering Marvel. There are the registration links in the chat.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It's been awesome. Make a little cream.
Thank you so much.